Boom! In just 47 seconds, Karoline Leavitt said what millions were thinking and shut down Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez so hard, even her critics are replaying the clip. That's not just political theater, that's viral power. And you are about to understand why this single moment has turned the political world on its head. Let's be clear, this wasn't just a heated exchange. It was a defining confrontation. A cultural flashpoint. And at the center of it all? A 27-year-old rising star from the Republican Party, Karoline Leavitt, who proved she's more than just a commentator, she's a serious contender. So who is she? And why does this moment matter so much? Let's rewind. Karoline Leavitt is not your typical politician. In fact, she's not a career politician at all. She burst onto the national stage as one of the youngest candidates ever to run for Congress in New Hampshire. While she didn't win her race, she won attention, and plenty of it. Leavitt quickly became known for her fierce defense of conservative values, her bold media appearances, and her ability to speak in a way that connects with everyday Americans, especially younger ones. With a background working in the Trump White House press office, Leavitt developed sharp communication skills early, and she knows exactly how to turn a 5-second soundbite into a 5 million view clip. So when she was invited to appear on national television to debate none other than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a sitting congresswoman and arguably the most recognizable progressive voice in America, the stakes were massive. AOC, a master of media herself, has long dominated headlines with passionate speeches, viral TikToks, and a loyal online army. She's no stranger to high-pressure debates, and she rarely gets rattled. But this time? Something was different. Karoline Leavitt came prepared. Not just with talking points, but with conviction. With calm. With clarity. And she didn't walk in with the goal of surviving the segment. She walked in with the goal of owning it. And that's exactly what she did. From the moment the debate started, viewers could sense the tension. The topic was immigration, a hot-button issue where the left and right often clash. AOC spoke first, delivering a passionate monologue about compassion, diversity, and what she called the soul of America. It was classic AOC, powerful, emotional, and confident. But then, Leavitt responded. Her voice? Steady. Her expression? Unshaken. Her words? Explosive. She calmly looked into the camera and asked the question many Americans have been silently asking: where is the compassion for the American people? And just like that, the tone shifted. Leavitt went on to challenge the narrative, calling out what she described as hypocrisy in open border policies, and painting a picture of struggling American families, small towns overwhelmed by illegal crossings, and the forgotten working class who feel left behind. But what really caught fire was the way she delivered her points. No yelling. No theatrics. Just bold facts and a boldness that cut through the noise. AOC tried to respond, but Leavitt didn't budge. She interrupted the interruption, flipped the script, and accused AOC of caring more about viral likes than real-life solutions. And that, folks, is when the internet exploded. Within minutes, the clip was on fire, spreading across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube with captions like, "She destroyed AOC. Karoline Leavitt, the future of the right? Watch this before you vote." Why did it go so viral? Because it wasn't just a debate, it was a generational showdown. On one side, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the progressive icon, the social media powerhouse, the face of the squad. On the other, Karoline Leavitt, the newcomer, the unapologetic conservative, the rising firebrand from Gen Z. Two women. Two Americas. One unforgettable moment. And now, millions of people who had never heard Karoline Leavitt's name suddenly know exactly who she is. This moment isn't just political, it's cultural. And it's proof that in today's America, one clip, one sentence, one mic drop moment can change everything. The tension was thick. The cameras were rolling. And within 30 seconds, it became clear this wasn't going to be a civil exchange. This was going to be war. The setting was a major cable news roundtable, primetime. The kind of show that millions tune into not just for information, but for moments that break the internet. The segment was supposed to be a simple panel discussion on border security, a topic that's been front and center in American politics for years. But what the producers didn't expect was that Karoline Leavitt and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would turn it into one of the most talked about on-air confrontations of the year. As the cameras cut to the studio, the host asked a seemingly routine question: how should America respond to the increasing crisis at the southern border? AOC jumped in first, passionate as always. She spoke about the humanitarian concerns, the need for compassion, and painted a vivid picture of migrant families fleeing violence. "We're dealing with mothers, children, refugees from war-torn countries," she said, her voice rising in emotion. "We are a nation of immigrants. This is not just policy. This is humanity." It was classic AOC, eloquent, fierce, and sure of her stance. Then came Karoline. No hesitation. No delay. No pulling punches. "What's happening at our border is not compassion," she said, cool and clear. "It's chaos. It's lawlessness. And it's hurting American citizens every single day." Boom. The first spark. She continued, "We can't have a country if we don't have borders. Period." That line, direct, simple, and cutting, immediately caught attention. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. Calm. Confident. Controlled. AOC's smile tightened. You could see the shift in her body language. She was getting ready to fire back, but Leavitt wasn't done. She leaned in and asked a question that caught everyone off guard. "Congresswoman, when was the last time you visited the southern border, not for a photo op, but to actually talk to Border Patrol agents, ranchers, and families who live in fear every night?" AOC blinked. She tried to pivot, talking points about policy reform and humanitarian aid. But Leavitt pressed again, "Because the people I've spoken to, the people you claim to care about, are telling a very different story. They're scared. Their homes are being broken into. Their kids are walking past dead bodies. And they don't see help. They see headlines." It was a tactical masterstroke, challenging not just AOC's position, but her credibility. And the audience could feel it. The host tried to mediate, but at that point, it was too late. The gloves were off. The two were in a rhetorical firefight, and Leavitt had come armed with ammo. Then came the now famous moment: "You talk about compassion, Congresswoman, but real compassion means protecting Americans too. Or have we forgotten who we're supposed to represent?" AOC, visibly irritated, accused Leavitt of oversimplifying the issue, calling her approach dangerous and inhumane. But instead of backing down, Leavitt doubled down: "What's dangerous is ignoring reality. What's dangerous is treating laws like suggestions. And what's really dangerous is turning a blind eye because it doesn't trend well on Twitter." Cue the silence. Cue the jaw drops. Cue the clip that would soon rocket through every corner of social media. Within minutes of airing, Twitter was ablaze. People were cutting, clipping, reacting, and sharing. Conservatives were cheering. Independents were intrigued. Even some moderates on the left were saying, "Okay, she's got a point." The segment ended, but the battle was just beginning. What was scheduled to be a 3-minute exchange had turned into a viral, culture-shaking clash of ideologies. A moment that captured the frustration, the fear, and the fierce division gripping the country. But more than anything, it was a moment where one young voice, previously underestimated, stood toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful progressives in America, and didn't blink. You can't fix a system you don't respect. And clearly, Congresswoman, you're more interested in TikTok applause than American solutions. That sentence was like striking a match over a puddle of gasoline. In just 17 words, Karoline Leavitt didn't just challenge Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she called out an entire political style. The moment it left her mouth, you could feel it, the collective gasp, the tightening of the room, the beginning of something way bigger than a televised debate. This wasn't a slip-up or a one-liner thrown in the heat of the moment. It was calculated, precise, and perfectly timed. It was the verbal version of a mic drop, delivered without raising her voice, without flinching, and without backing down. And it blew up the internet. Within 30 minutes, the clip was being reposted by every major political account on X, formerly Twitter. Within 2 hours, it had crossed 1 million views. By morning, the phrase TikTok applause had become a meme, a headline, and a new weapon in the political playbook. But what made it so powerful? Because in that sentence, Leavitt captured something deeper than politics. She tapped into a growing frustration that many Americans, even moderates and independents, are feeling. The idea that politics has become performance. That some elected officials seem more focused on social media trends, viral videos, and camera angles than actually solving the nation's problems. Leavitt didn't just disagree with AOC's views. She implied something far more biting, that AOC wasn't serious. That she was playing to the crowd, not leading. And that, more than anything, stuck. Even people who had never heard of Karoline Leavitt started watching. Sharing. Commenting. She just said what millions of us have been thinking. That was the cleanest shutdown I've seen on cable news. Not even a fan of hers, but wow, she handled that like a pro. Let's be honest, most political debates don't go viral. They're usually background noise. But every now and then, someone cuts through the noise with a moment so sharp, so real, and so unexpected that the entire online world stops to watch. This was one of those moments. Even major political commentators weighed in. Ben Shapiro called it an instant classic. Megyn Kelly tweeted, "Karoline Leavitt just took AOC to school. Calm. Direct. Unflinching." Even Piers Morgan chimed in, "That's how you debate, no shouting, just precision strikes." But it wasn't just the conservative world reacting. Liberal hosts, influencers, and writers took notice too. Some accused Leavitt of being disrespectful. Others admitted, grudgingly, that it was a solid rhetorical moment. One progressive commentator wrote, "I don't agree with her, but you can't deny." She had command of that room. And that's the thing. Karoline didn't yell. She didn't insult. She didn't need to. Because she had the 3 things that make a viral moment explode. Clarity, she said something bold and understandable. Confidence, she delivered it without fear. Contrast, she made AOC's usual fire look like smoke. It was the perfect storm. And here's what really caught fire, the fact that Leavitt is from Gen Z. The very generation that AOC has long been seen as the voice of. In one sentence, Leavitt positioned herself as a countervoice for that generation. A new voice. One that says, we're not all progressive. Some of us are fed up and we're ready to fight back. This wasn't just a political moment. It was a cultural realignment. The clip didn't just get views, it got traction. Across TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and podcast segments, everyone wanted to break it down. What it meant. What it signaled. And what it said about the direction of Gen Z conservatism. And the message was loud and clear, Karoline Leavitt isn't just in the conversation now. She is the conversation. Boom. She ended her. Leavitt won, AOC 0. Those were just a few of the top comments as the clip exploded across the internet. By the time Karoline Leavitt's segment had been online for 24 hours, it had become more than a viral video, it was a cultural moment. Everyone was watching. Everyone had something to say. And no matter which side of the political spectrum people were on, they were talking. Let's start with the right, because they lit up like fireworks on the 4th of July. Conservative influencers were elated. Twitter was flooded with support from GOP lawmakers, commentators, and activists praising Leavitt for doing what many had tried and failed to do, stand toe-to-toe with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and come out on top. Ben Shapiro released a full 10-minute video breakdown titled, "Karoline Leavitt just exposed the left's media game and AOC wasn't ready." Dan Bongino called it, "the best dismantling of AOC I've seen in years." Charlie Kirk tweeted, "Karoline Leavitt just sent a message loud and clear, Gen Z conservatives are done being quiet." Even the Trump camp took notice. Some insiders shared the clip with the caption, "She learned from the best." Supporters weren't just cheering the moment. they were rallying around a new voice. A voice that, to them, felt young, sharp, and unafraid. Many said it was the first time they had seen someone from the new generation of conservatives take the gloves off and win. But what was even more surprising was how centrists and independents responded. In the comments sections of mainstream news posts, something unusual was happening. People who didn't identify as Republicans were admitting that Leavitt made some solid points. "I don't usually agree with the GOP, but this woman came with facts and didn't flinch. Refreshing to see someone debate without yelling and actually sound prepared. I thought I liked AOC, but this made me think twice." You could feel it. Leavitt's confidence and clarity broke through the partisan noise. Even viewers who disagreed with her policies were impressed with her delivery. And that's the mark of a true viral moment, when people who don't like you can't deny you nailed it. Now, on the left, the reaction was a mix of damage control, denial, and quiet respect. Some progressive accounts called Leavitt rude, performative, or accused her of right-wing talking points. Others tried to discredit her as inexperienced or scripted. But the reality? That approach didn't gain much traction because the footage spoke for itself. AOC loyalists argued that their representative was being ambushed or misunderstood. But others weren't so sure. Even some left-leaning commentators admitted that the debate hadn't gone as expected. One progressive journalist tweeted, "AOC looked caught off guard. Leavitt came in prepared, and it showed." Podcasters on the left debated whether this was just a flash-in-the-pan moment or if Leavitt was someone they'd have to take seriously going forward. And that uncertainty, that shift in tone, said a lot. But perhaps the most interesting reaction came from younger viewers, especially Gen Z. Clips of Leavitt calling out TikTok politics were ironically going viral on TikTok itself, not just among conservatives, but even in apolitical meme circles. Her quote about respecting the system was being stitched, and debated on high school and college accounts across the platform. Why? Because Leavitt did something rare. She crossed the generational communication gap. She delivered her message in a way that didn't feel stiff or scripted, even while talking about complex policy. And that resonated. People weren't just impressed with what she said, they were impressed by how she said it. No shouting. No name-calling. No dodging. Just a calm, composed takedown that felt real. In a world where political discourse often looks like a shouting match, Karoline Leavitt offered something different, and it made a massive impact. One viral moment can make a headline. But what Karoline Leavitt just did, that can make a career. The dust hadn't even settled on the viral AOC exchange before political insiders, media personalities, and even potential donors began asking the same question: who exactly is Karoline Leavitt and what's next for her? Because let's be honest, you don't come out of a head-to-head clash with one of the most powerful progressives in America and walk away unnoticed. You walk away rebranded, and Leavitt just went from rising star to national name in 24 hours flat. Let's talk about the possibilities. She's already shown she can handle live television, speak with confidence, and go toe-to-toe with some of the toughest voices on the left. She's young, articulate, media-savvy, and most importantly, she knows how to go viral for the right reasons. That's a deadly combination in modern politics. And the GOP has taken notice. Some conservative strategists are already floating her name for future leadership roles in Gen Z outreach, media commentary, or even another run for Congress or beyond. There are whispers of a fast-track media career, possibly with a major news network, or an independent show of her own. But the bigger question is this: could Karoline Leavitt become the face of a new generation of conservative leaders? The answer might be yes. Because what she represents goes far beyond just one fiery moment or one viral video. She represents something the GOP has struggled to cultivate for years: a young, bold, authentic voice that can compete with progressive influencers on their own turf. Not just in debates, but on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and podcasts. She's not just fighting the message, she's fighting on the same platforms. And she's winning. This new generation of politically engaged Americans doesn't want to read 12-point policy plans. They want clear language, real conviction, and a little fire. And that's exactly what Leavitt delivered. But here's what makes her especially dangerous to the left, that is. She's not just throwing red meat to her base. She's pulling in independents, moderates, and even some disillusioned Democrats who are tired of performance politics. People are starting to see her not just as a conservative voice, but as a serious communicator, someone who speaks in a way that cuts through the political fog. She's proving that being young doesn't mean being naive. And being conservative doesn't mean being boring. Now, let's not pretend the road ahead will be easy. The more attention Leavitt gets, the more scrutiny she'll face. The media will dig into her past, try to catch her in contradictions, and test her consistency. And you can bet that progressives, including AOC herself, will be ready to strike back. But if she continues to stay sharp, stay calm, and stick to her convictions, there's no telling how far she can go. This viral moment wasn't an accident. It was the result of preparation, poise, and presence, three things that even seasoned politicians struggle with. And if there's one thing history tells us, it's this: a single moment can change everything. For Karoline Leavitt, that moment has arrived. She didn't just go viral. She didn't just win a debate. She introduced herself to America loudly, clearly, and without apology. And whether you love her or hate her, one thing is certain: she's not going away. Smash that like button if this story fired you up, and let us know in the comments, do you think Karoline Leavitt has what it takes to be a future political powerhouse? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the moments everyone's talking about.